When my wife Erin, 30F, 34M, and I married 5 years ago, I knew she came into the marriage with significant debt, about $45,000, mostly student loans and some credit card balances. For me, this was not an obstacle. I believed in the possibility of building a life together, and frankly, I admired that she was open about it even before we got engaged. We worked out a financial plan together. I worked overtime at my job, and we cut back on luxuries. No vacations, no major purchases, and no dinners out except for special occasions. Erin also found part-time work on weekends to contribute. We were a team, so it seemed to me. I have sacrificed a lot over the years to help us accomplish this goal. I am an electrician, and the extra hours of work put a strain on my body. There were days when I came home so exhausted that I barely had the energy to talk, let alone enjoy the company of Erin. I felt it was worth it, since we were working toward a common goal. Finally, 2 months ago, we made our last payment. I felt a sense of pride and relief, thinking, we did it. What I didn't realize was that Erin had other plans. 2 months after we were debt-free, Erin invited me in for what she called a serious talk. She looked nervous, like she didn't want to say what she was going to say. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began. Such a beginning is never a good one. I think I might fall in love with someone else. She went on to tell me about a guy she met at her yoga studio. His name is Ryan. Apparently, their shared interest in fitness and mindfulness brought them together. According to Erin, nothing physical happened, but she admitted that she had developed feelings for him and was thinking about breaking up with me to sort them out. I was stunned, speechless. My mind immediately flashed back to the years of hard work I'd done for us, for her. All those late nights, missed vacations, and sacrifices. And now she was talking about leaving? I felt dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? I asked her. You're telling me this now? After everything we've been through? Erin tried to make it seem like this wasn't about me. I'm just not sure I'm happy anymore, she said. It's not because of what you did or didn't do. I just feel like I need to find myself. But it was hard not to feel that her timing was suspect. She was waiting until the debt was paid off to drop this bombshell. I couldn't help but wonder. Was this her plan all along? Had she lingered here, just so I could help her get out of the financial hole she found herself in? I hardly slept that night. I replayed her words in my head and analyzed every moment of our marriage. Had I missed all the signs? Had she been unhappy the whole time, and I was too focused on finances to notice? The next day, I confronted her again. Do you even appreciate what I've done for you? I asked. Asked me. I put my life on hold to help you, Erin, and now you're telling me that's not enough? She became defensive. I never asked you to do that. She blurted out in response. You chose to help me with my debts on your own. I didn't force you. That hurt. While technically true, her response felt dismissive of the sacrifices I'd made. I thought we were partners. I thought we were together. I told my best friend Mike about what was going on. Mike was furious on my behalf. Dude, she was 100% using you, he said. She was waiting for her life to get better so she could blame it on you. It's doubtful as hell. But when I talked to my sister, her response was more nuanced. I don't think it's fair to say she used you, she said, but I think she's being incredibly selfish. Marriage isn't just about constant happiness. It's about standing up for yourself in times of need. Their response only added to my confusion. Was I being unfair, assuming the worst in Erin? Or was I justified in feeling like I was getting a ride? In a last-ditch effort to save our marriage, I suggested seeing a couples therapist. Erin agreed, but I could see she wasn't in the mood for it. During our sessions, she talked a lot about feeling stuck and wanting to find her purpose. The therapist asked her if she could do this while staying in our marriage. Erin hesitated before answering, I don't know. That hesitation felt like a dagger stabbed to the chest. One night I checked Erin's cell phone while she was in the shower. I know it was a breach of trust, but I couldn't help myself. I discovered a string of texts between her and Ryan. While there was nothing overtly romantic about them, their tone was too familiar for me to be reassured. I asked Erin about it, and she admitted that they texted regularly. But I'm not cheating. She insisted. We're just friends. Friends don't talk like that, I replied. The turning point came when Erin told me she wanted to take a trial separation. She said she needed space to figure out what she wanted. I felt like she had already made a decision, but she didn't have the courage to admit it. I moved out and moved in with a friend. It's been a month now, and technically we are still married, but I feel like the marriage is over. It's even more painful to realize how much of my savings I spent to help Erin. I have started to recover, but it will take me years to get back to where I was financially. In the meantime, she is debt-free and, as far as I can tell, living her best life. I've been thinking a lot about our marriage and what went wrong in it. I'm not perfect, far from it, but I can't shake the feeling that Erin used me as a stepping stone to get her life together and then discarded me when she didn't need me anymore. I've started dating again, even though I have a hard time trusting anyone. Every time I meet someone new, I wonder if they're with me for the right reasons or if I'm just a means to an end. When I shared this story on Reddit, the responses were mixed. NTA, not that asshole, and ESH, everyone here sucks. Some agreed that Erin's timing was suspicious, while others said I was wrong to assume malicious intent. I'm still trying to move forward, but it's not easy. The trust one had in people, in relationships, has been severely shaken. I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from this, but I'm trying to live one day at a time. After the post on Reddit blew up, I started obsessively checking the comments. I wanted confirmation, but the ambiguous responses made me cringe even more. Some people told me I needed to suck it up and move on. Others judged me for not seeing the obvious red flags. A few people said that Erin might really be struggling with her happiness and that I should try to forgive her, even if the marriage is over. Forgive her? For what? For turning my life upside down after everything I'd sacrificed? It's easy for strangers to offer forgiveness, but they didn't have to live with the consequences. I'll admit, emotionally, I wasn't at my best. The trial separation had turned into a full-blown separation. Erin seemed to be thriving, posting pictures from yoga class and smiling selfies with her new friends on social media. Meanwhile, I was waking up in my buddy's spare room, staring at the ceiling and wondering where it all went wrong. To cope, I started going out more often. Mike dragged me to bars, telling me I needed to get back in the game. I wasn't ready for that, but the booze helped dull the pain. After a few weeks, I downloaded a few dating apps, thinking, why not? And that's when things took a turn for the worse. The first few introductions were harmless. Casual conversations, a couple awkward dates, but nothing serious. Then I met Megan. She was funny, confident, and unlike Erin, seemed genuinely interested in me, not just in what I could do for her. We met a few times, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. But deep down, I knew I wasn't over Erin. I tried to hide it, but Megan picked up on it. One night, after a few drinks, I blurted out, "You know, it's weird. You remind me of my wife, but in a good way." She froze. "Wait, wife? You're married?" I tried to explain that we had broken up, but it didn't matter. She walked away, calling me a walking red flag. She wasn't wrong. That night, I stared at my phone, contemplating whether to text Erin. Part of me wanted to vent, to ask if there was any chance we could work things out. The other part realized it was pointless. Erin had already moved on, probably with Ryan. A week later, I found myself scrolling through Erin's social media again. It was like picking at a wound. I knew it was going to hurt, but I couldn't stop. And then I saw it. A picture of Erin and Ryan on a hiking trail, embracing each other. The caption read, "Grateful for new beginnings." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Fueled by anger, and probably too much whiskey, I texted Erin. "Glad to see you're enjoying your new beginning, and I'm still picking up the pieces. Hope it was worth it." She replied almost immediately, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but this isn't about you. I need to live my life, and so do you." Her casual dismissal only made me angrier. I shot back, "You used me to get out of debt, and then dumped me when you got out of it. Don't pretend this isn't about me." She didn't say anything back after that. A few weeks later, I ran into Erin unexpectedly at a coffee shop. She was with Ryan. They were laughing about something when I walked in. She noticed me and froze for a second, then waved awkwardly. I wasn't ready for that. My heart raced and I felt a wave of emotions, danger, sadness, regret, all at once. I thought about leaving, but instead I walked over to their table. "Hi," I said, trying to keep my voice even. Didn't expect to see you here. Aaron looked awkward. Ryan held out his hand, probably trying to defuse the tension. You must be. I've heard a lot about you. I shook his hand, even though I didn't feel like it. That's funny. I've heard a lot about you, too. The awkwardness was palpable. Aaron left to get more, leaving me alone with Ryan. I just want you to know, he said. I didn't mean to come between you two. Aaron told me you were already in trouble. His words sounded like salt to the wound. That's right. Problems she didn't bother to mention until her debt was gone. He didn't say anything back, and I honestly didn't expect him to. Aaron returned, and I decided it was time to leave. A few days after the meeting at the coffee shop, Aaron sent me an email. Hi. I just wanted to clear the air after running into you the other day. I know things ended badly between us, and I take responsibility for my part in that. I never meant to hurt you or make you feel used. I know it doesn't mean much now, but I truly loved you and will always be grateful for everything you did for me. I didn't leave because of Ryan. I left because I wasn't happy, and I didn't think it was fair to stay in a marriage where I couldn't give you the love and partnership you deserve. I hope someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Take care of yourself, Aaron. I reread the letter dozens of times, trying to decide how to feel. Part of me wanted to respond, to vent all my anger and resentment. The other part of me just felt exhausted. I went to therapy again, this time on my own. I realized that I needed to focus on myself, not on Aaron or Ryan, or what could have been. My therapist helped me realize that although Aaron's actions had hurt me deeply, my fixation on her was holding me back. Sometimes people drift apart, she said. It doesn't mean you weren't enough, just that your paths diverged. It's okay to grieve that, but don't let it define you. It had been 6 months since Aaron and I had officially divorced. I moved out of my friend's place and into a small apartment. It's not very big, but it's mine. I've started taking better care of myself, exercising, eating better, and even picked up some hobbies I'd neglected during the marriage. I'm not dating yet, and honestly, I'm fine with that. For now, I'm focused on rebuilding my life and figuring out who I am without being Aaron's husband. Looking back, I still feel pain, but I also feel clarity. Maybe Aaron really did use me. Maybe she didn't. Either way, I can't change the past. All I can do is move forward. Even though I'm working on myself, trust is still a huge issue for me. The thought of opening up to someone new seems impossible. And this doesn't just apply to relationships. I'm starting to doubt everyone, friends, coworkers, even family members. One night I was hanging out with Mike, my best friend who has been my rock through it all. We were drinking beers on his back porch when he started talking about something I hadn't thought about. Have you ever thought about why this hit you so hard? He asked. What do you mean? I mean, yeah, what Aaron did sucks, but you're acting like it's the end of the world. Maybe it's not just her. Maybe it's much deeper than that. That hit me. Mike is an honest man, and while he's a little harsh, he's usually right. I started thinking about my past, how my parents' divorce when I was a teenager shook me to my core. My dad had left my mom for another woman, and I'd spent years watching my mom try to pick up the pieces. I vowed that I would never be like my dad or put anyone through what my mom went through. A few weeks later, I was grocery shopping when I ran into someone from my past. Her name was Jessica, and we briefly dated in college before losing touch. She looked exactly the same, bright smile, easy energy. We ended up chatting in the grocery store for much longer than I expected. She told me that she had moved back to the city after living on the East Coast for a while, working as a graphic designer. When she asked about me, I hesitated for a moment before replying, just going through a divorce, trying to figure things out. To my surprise, she didn't flinch or express pity. Yes, divorces are hard, she said simply, but it's also a chance for a fresh start. That remark sank into my soul. Jessica and I exchanged numbers, and over the next few weeks we started texting each other. Nothing romantic, just casual conversations about life, work, and old college memories. It felt good to connect with someone who knew me before all this chaos, someone who didn't see me as the guy who got dumped. Eventually, she invited me out for coffee. I was nervous, more nervous than I had any right to be, but said yes. The date over coffee was refreshing. Jessica didn't pry or try to fix me. She just listened, shared her own experiences, and made me laugh for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. As much as I enjoyed my time with Jessica, I was determined not to rush things. I told her right away that I wasn't ready for a relationship, and she replied that she understood me. "I'm not looking for anything serious either," she said. "Let's just see what happens." For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. There were no expectations, no pressure, just two people enjoying each other's company. Just when my relationship with Jessica was starting to feel comfortable, Erin showed up unannounced at my apartment. We hadn't spoken in months, and seeing her at my door was like being hit by a truck. "Hi," she said, looking nervous. "Can we talk?" I let her in, mostly out of curiosity. She looked different, tired, like life wasn't as perfect as her Instagram made it seem. "I just wanted to apologize again," she began, "for everything. I know I handled the situation poorly and hurt you in ways I can't take back." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "I guess I just needed to see you to know you were okay," she added. There was a hollow feeling in her words. I couldn't tell if she was being sincere or if it was some attempt to gloss over the guilt. Either way, I didn't want to bring up the past. "I'm fine," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I've moved on." She nodded, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for something else to say. "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy." With those words, she left. After Erin's visit, I felt strangely peaceful. I wasn't sure if it was true closure or just relief that I could finally see her without feeling a rush of anger and sadness. I realized something important that day. I didn't need her apology to move on with my life. She couldn't give me anything. That was something I had to find in myself. Jessica and I continued to communicate, and over time, our connection grew deeper. She became a safe space for me, someone I could be vulnerable with without fear of judgment. One night we were sitting on my couch watching a movie when she turned to me and said, "I know you're still healing, and I don't want to rush you, but I really like being with you." I felt a lump in my throat. "I like being with you too," I admitted. "It's just, I don't want to mess it up." She smiled, her hand resting on mine. "Then let's not ruin anything. One day at a time." As my relationship with Jessica progressed, I began to notice changes in myself. I became more open, more willing to trust. I still had moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if history was destined to repeat itself, but Jessica's patience and kindness helped dispel those fears. For the first time, I felt that I wasn't defined by my past. My failed marriage, Erin's betrayal, and financial sacrifices were all chapters of my story, but not the whole book. The hardest part of this journey was not forgiving Erin, but forgiving myself, for ignoring the warning signs, for letting resentment fester, for sacrificing so much without setting boundaries. Therapy helped me realize that I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't a villain either. I was doing the best I could with what I knew at the time, and I'm better now. It's been a year since Erin and I finalized our divorce. I still think about her sometimes, but not with anger or sadness. Just accepting. Our marriage taught me a lot about love, sacrifice, and the importance of self-respect. Jessica and I are still together, and although I don't know what the future holds for us, I finally have renewed hope. But I was wrong. We were all wrong. It all went wrong. I thought divorcing Erin would be the hardest part, but I underestimated the consequences. Our mutual friends, who had been mostly supportive of me during the divorce, started acting differently. At first it was subtle. People stopped inviting me to group events, or I'd see photos on Instagram from hangouts I wasn't at. It wasn't until a coworker approached me during lunch that I realized why. "Hey man," he said, awkwardly shuffling from foot to foot. "I don't mean to pry, but I saw something on Facebook. Erin posted about the divorce, and people are discussing it." My stomach rumbled. "What exactly?" "She says you're embittered and can't let go of the situation," he said, avoiding my gaze. "That you've been texting her nonstop, trying to sabotage her new relationship. Is that true?" I felt like I'd been punched. Not only was it not true, but I hadn't spoken to Erin since her random visit to my apartment. That night, I logged onto Facebook for the first time in weeks. Erin wrote a long emotional status about learning to love anew after being held back for so long. She didn't name me directly, but anyone who knew us could put two and two together. In the comments, People rallied around her. You deserve to be happy, girl. Put toxicity in the past. Good for you for standing up for yourself. I knew something was wrong with him. You're too good for this. I couldn't believe it. I'm not one to air my dirty laundry online, but this felt like an attack on my identity. She wasn't just rewriting history. She was dragging my name through the mud. I pondered what to say in response, but what could I even say? I'm not actually a toxic bitter ex, thank you. That would only make me look even worse. The next week, I texted a close friend, Jenna, to see if she wanted to grab a drink. She and I had been close before the divorce, and I assumed she would still be on my side. Her response was cold. I don't think that's a good idea. I'm trying to stay neutral and don't want to get involved in the drama. Neutral? I replied. There's nothing to be neutral about. Aaron is making up lies, and I'm not even defending myself. Jenna didn't answer anything. It became clear that people were choosing sides, and for some reason Aaron's side was more appealing. She played the role of the strong woman walking away from a toxic relationship, and I played the role of the bitter ex who can't let them go. A few days later, Mike called me, anger in his voice. You're not going to believe this, he said. I ran into Erin at the bar last night, and she told everyone that you were stalking her and Ryan, that you showed up at her yoga studio to confront them. What the hell? I snapped back. That's an outright lie. I never came anywhere near her yoga studio. I know, dude, Mike said, but people will eat it up. She's convinced half the band that you're crazy. There was no way I could figure out what was going on. Why was Erin doing this? Guilt? A need to justify her actions? Or was she just trying to burn any bridges we had left? The final straw was a call from my mom. There was concern in her voice. Honey, I saw something online. Erin posted about you harassing her, and people shared it. I felt my blood boil. She's lying, Mom. I didn't contact her at all. I believe you, she said softly, but not everyone will believe you. You should think about clearing your name. That night I sat down and wrote a long Facebook post. I hesitated for hours, contemplating whether my story would get better or worse. Finally, I hit the publish button. Here's what I wrote. Hi everyone. I have been hesitant to write about my divorce for a long time because I believe that personal matters should remain private. However, recent rumors and accusations have forced me to speak out. Erin and I broke up because we were no longer compatible. I never stalked her, followed her, or tried to sabotage her relationship. Furthermore, I have not contacted her at all since the divorce was finalized. I understand that a breakup brings up a lot of emotions, but I will not allow my identity to be tarnished by not standing up for myself. If anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me directly. The response followed immediately. Some people wrote me private messages apologizing for believing Erin's version of events. Others left public comments expressing their support. But, of course, Erin was not happy. The next day, Erin posted an obscure but apt status. It's funny how some people can't face the truth and try to put everything on the line. Some of us are just trying to get on with our lives. Her supporters flooded the comments with condolences, and the cycle began anew. I realized that Erin could not be defeated. She stuck to her side of the story, and the more I resisted, the more ammunition I got. One of my coworkers, Sam, pulled me aside at work. Look, kid, you're better off ignoring this, he said. The more you get involved, the more it seems like you care. Let it all sort itself out. Sam was right. In trying to protect myself, I was giving Erin the attention she wanted. I decided to back off and let her dig her own hole. I deleted my Facebook account. If people want to believe these lies, that's their business. Those who cared, those who really knew me, would eventually see the truth. A month later, Mike called with the news. Apparently, Erin and Ryan were having problems. She had written something cryptic about betrayal, and people thought Ryan had cheated. I can't say I was surprised. Relationships built on lies and emotional infidelity rarely last. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry or resentful when I thought about Erin. I just felt nothing. Social media taught me a valuable lesson. Not everything has to be a battle. Sometimes it's best to disconnect and focus on your own growth. I'm reconnecting with a few supportive friends and building an increasingly compact and strong support system. Jessica is still in my life. and our relationship is slowly growing into something meaningful. As for Erin, I wish her well, but from a distance. I finally realized that her opinion of me doesn't define who I am. About 6 months after Erin hinted at a breakup with Ryan with her cryptic betrayal post, I was at a local hardware store and ran into Jenna, the same friend who sided with Erin during the social media altercation. She and I hadn't spoken since, and to my surprise, she seemed genuinely happy to see me. "Hi, can we talk?" she asked almost nervously. "I owe you an apology." I didn't expect much from her, an awkward sorry at most. But what she told me rendered me speechless. Jenna explained that she kept in touch with Erin for a while after the divorce, but eventually distanced herself when things got weird. "She turned out to not be the person I thought she was," Jenna admitted. "I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of the things she said about you didn't add up. And then I found out about the money. My heart dropped." "What money?" Jenna hesitated, clearly contemplating whether to tell me. "I don't know all the details, but Erin is having financial difficulties even more than she says she is. She's been asking people for loans, saying she'll pay them back once she gets her settlement." I blinked confusedly. "Settlement? From who?" "From you." I laughed bitterly, though there was nothing funny about it. "What settlement? We didn't even go to court." She signed the divorce papers and walked away clean. Jenna nodded. "I know, but she told people she was entitled to a share of your savings because you emotionally manipulated her into staying married, to pay off debts. She made it sound like you owed her something." I felt my jaw clench. Erin hadn't just rewritten the history of our marriage, she'd rewritten the history of our divorce. "Did anyone actually give her money?" I asked. Jenna looked uncomfortable. "I did, and a few other people. She said she needed rent money after Ryan moved out, but now I'm not so sure about that. I heard she was gambling." I didn't want to believe it, but all the pieces were starting to fall into place. Erin's financial problems were a constant in our marriage, but she always attributed them to bad luck. Student loans, unexpected bills, a car that needed to be repaired. I worked overtime, cut my own expenses, and thought we were handling her debt as a team. Now I wondered, how much of that debt was real? I started digging. It wasn't hard to find mutual friends who were willing to talk as soon as I brought up Jenna's confession. One of them told me that Erin had borrowed money from friends long before she met me, often telling heartwarming stories about how she was one paycheck away from disaster. Another mentioned an incident when Erin's credit card was declined at a group dinner and she claimed it was a bank error, but now they weren't so sure. And then there was Mike, my best friend, who brought up something I had overlooked. "Remember when you found that wad of unopened bills in her dresser?" he said. "You brushed them off because she said she was just too stressed to open them. What if it wasn't just that?" Jenna's mention of gambling kept me on edge, so I decided to dig deeper. I contacted a mutual acquaintance who used to work at a local casino. He confirmed it. Erin was a regular. She didn't bet big, but she came in often, he said. Mostly slots and blackjack. I figured she was just blowing off steam, but now that you mention it, she does look desperate sometimes. I felt like an idiot. All those evenings when Erin said she was doing yoga or meeting friends for a cup of coffee, how many of them had she spent at the casino? How much of her so-called debt had been accumulated in pursuit of jackpots? The most surprising revelation I had was when I spoke to the man who had kept in touch with Ryan. I didn't seek him out, frankly. I wasn't interested in anything related to him, but apparently he had told a mutual acquaintance about his relationship with Erin. According to Ryan, things quickly went south after she moved in with him. She constantly asked him for money, small amounts at first, then more and more. She blamed him for the legal fees associated with the divorce and said she was trying to get her life back on track. She was sucking him dry, a mutual friend said. He said he felt like her ATM machine. When he finally talked to her about it, she exploded and accused him of not supporting her. That explains the betrayal post that Erin made after their breakup. It wasn't Ryan who betrayed her, it was the other way around. At that moment, I was angry, not just at Erin, but at myself. How could I have been so blind? How had I let someone manipulate me for so long without seeing the signs? I pondered whether to confront Erin. Part of me wanted to demand answers, to hear her admit to everything she'd done. But another part of me knew it didn't matter. Erin was a master of subterfuge, and any confrontation would only give her the opportunity to play the victim role again. In the end, I decided to let it go. Not for her sake, but for my own. Finding out the truth about Erin wasn't the ending I expected, but it gave me something I didn't even realize I needed: clarity. Erin's financial problems weren't just bad luck, they were a pattern. Her ability to manipulate people into helping her wasn't a one-time thing. It was a skill she'd honed over the years. And while it pained me to know that I was one of her marks, it also helped me realize that her behavior wasn't my fault. I wasn't responsible for her choices, her lies, or her gambling. I did my best to support her, and when that wasn't enough, she moved on to the next target. For the first time since my divorce, I feel free. Free from guilt, anger, and lingering doubts about whether I could have done more. I'm still recovering, financially, emotionally, and socially, but I'm doing well. Jessica has been a constant source of support, and while our relationship isn't perfect, there's a sense of reality to it that was never present in my marriage. As for Erin, I don't wish her harm, but I don't feel sorry for her either. She made her choice, and now she has to live with it. To everyone reading this who has been in a similar situation, don't let other people's lies define your worth. Learn, grow, and know that there is life on the other side. After uncovering Erin's web of financial deception, I thought I would feel vindicated, but the truth left a bitter taste in my mouth. It wasn't just the lies or the money, though it was those too, but the realization of how little I really knew her. For years, I'd convinced myself that we were a team, that we were working toward common goals. But looking back, I realized I had been working toward her goals while ignoring my own. The emotional weight of it all remained, but I was determined to move forward. My therapist once told me, healing is never linear. Some days that seemed like an understatement. There were moments of clarity and hope, followed by moments of anger and insecurity. Yet I knew that the only way out was through myself. One of the first things I did after my divorce was sit down and take a hard look at my finances. For years I had been focused on helping Erin pay off her debts, often at the expense of my own financial security. Now that she was gone, I was finally able to prioritize. I started by creating a detailed budget, something I hadn't done since we were married. I was amazed to see how much I had neglected my own savings. My 401k contributions were laughable, my emergency fund was virtually non-existent, and my credit history, once stellar, had suffered thanks to joint accounts mismanaged by Erin. I didn't indulge in self-pity, however. Instead, I devised a plan. I took extra shifts at work, cut back on unnecessary expenses, and channeled every spare dollar into rebuilding my financial security. Things progressed slowly, but each month brought small victories. While busy rebuilding my life, I decided to keep Erin's secrets to myself. Sure, some part of me wanted to expose her so everyone would know the truth about her lies and manipulations. But what would that accomplish? It wouldn't change the past or undo the damage that had been done. Besides, most of the people who sided with her had already started to distance themselves from her. I heard that she was burning bridges left and right, taking out loans from friends, making excuses for missed payments, and making up new stories to justify her actions. People picked up on this. The satisfaction of watching her reputation being ruined was not as satisfying as I had anticipated. I felt empty. Jessica played a big part in helping me find my footing again. She didn't pressure me to open up or try to fix me. On the contrary, she gave me the space I needed to figure things out on my own terms.